Great, thank you, Salim. Great, we're getting some great responses. I would encourage you to take a look at the chat. These are good examples. Edgar says, whoever participates reaps the skills. Couldn't agree more. Okay, take maybe 30 more seconds to get a response in if you haven't already. Thank you. I see a lot of people talking about being objective, being unbiased in their assessment of people. That's really what we're after today. Really good stuff. Okay, great. Well, really appreciate you guys sharing. Does anyone want to unmute themselves and maybe expand a little bit on either anything that they said or something that someone else popped in the chat? I would be absolutely down to leave the floor if anyone wanted to speak. Yes, Commissioner, go ahead, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. This is Joe Kamshujina from Nigeria. I took the second one, which is examine what is said and not who is speaking it. Most times, you see, when you do that, there's this, you don't put bias into it. You objectively talk about whatever it's on ground or whatever he is saying now, and not because he is the one saying it. And that's how I feel, sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, truly. Thank you. You take what people say at face value. Amazing. Rukaya, and if you raise your hand, could you say your name and just say where you're calling in from, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can. Okay, look. Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Rukaya Ibrahim from Nigeria. I also took both the second and the third, but since my friend spoke about the second, let me speak about the third. So for the third, when you get knowledge but you don't apply it, it doesn't give any output, any results, any impact. But what you gain if you apply it to your daily life, you either teach it to others or you put it into practice yourself. You keep learning about it, you know more about it, and then you raise more questions that will make you
Oh, you cut out Rukaya. Okay, might be some technical difficulties there, but the thing that what really resonated with what Rukaya just said, and I think a big point of this training is, oh, please go ahead, go ahead. Okay, we might come back. Really good point. Thank you for sharing. Let's go to Padmayo, please. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thanks. I'm Paidamoyo from Zimbabwe. I'd like to thank the previous speakers for their reflections. For me, I'm just going to share my reflections on the third one. Knowledge is a garden. If it isn't cultivated, you can't harvest it. So the first one was on putting into action, as highlighted by the last speaker. But my other reflection is that we are living in a changing world and there are different dynamics. So we need to continue to learn. We are supposed to learn every day so that we are able to adapt to the changing context. If you are just static, you will find yourself moving outside the box. So it's very important for you to be adaptive, continue to learn so that you apply the learnings to the changed context. Thank you.
100%, absolutely. And that's it's fantastic that we have 68 participants in this training who are excited about learning further. Okay, great. Yeah, let's go one more. Samson, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, for me, I take the number 2, where it says examine what is said, not who is speaking. Because most of the times in the work we do, people tend to give some kind of respect to some particular people, while other people that you feel can't contribute within the work you do in communities also have a lot to do. So for us, what I see here is what is the subject matter all about? You are not looking at the person that is saying it, but what is the issues that you want to deal with? At times when you look at the personality, people tend to be discouraged from the case we've seen around us. But when you direct yourself and listen to what is said rather than looking at who is saying it, will help you in times of issues that we've always been working around.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And I think getting down, one of the huge benefits of qualitative research is it really allows you to identify root causes for issues that seem systemic. Root causes that's what we're really getting at when we're looking at qualitative research. So just a quick table of contents for how this training is going to run. We basically have 4 or 5 sets of modules for conducting qualitative research. Again, I would highly encourage you. We're going to share this information with participants after the training. And this session is, for full disclosure, being recorded. So if you wanted an audio version as well, you will have access to that. Any questions on logistics, anything that you guys might need before we move forward? Okay, cool. Any questions, please drop them in the chat. Okay, cool. So next thing that I need you guys to do, in 1 sentence or less, what is your goal for this training? And once you have it, please drop it in the chat. I will give you 60 seconds to write 1 sentence. What is your main goal for this training? Thank you. Share and exchange experiences and learnings on QR methodology. Incredible. We will definitely be covering that. Yep, I see another thumbs up. Yeah, that's great. Enhance research skills in general, absolutely. Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate your engagement. This is great. To sharpen and enhance, oh my gosh. And enhance our research skills, especially on qualitative research. Good, it sounds like you are in the right place. How to best analyze qualitative data. I've also seen a couple of people ask in the chat, is there a some sort of certification for this training? For this particular training, there is not. However, a lot of the concepts and methodology that we cover is also covered in, for example, a project management professional certificate, which I'm sure many of you might be interested in. So while there's no certificate for this training, it will absolutely support you in getting certificates in others. Good question. Okay, great. Really appreciate your engagement. So looks like we're all here to, improve our data analysis, qualitative research skills. Hopefully you're going to have a great takeaway from the rest of today. Okay. So these are our goals. There are two. Number one is, like you guys were talking about, we want to create knowledge. Keyword is create, as in together. Knowledge about qualitative research methods and how and why they're really, really useful. Number one. And then the second, probably most important thing, is to connect with like-minded people to solve complex peace-building problems using these qualitative research skills. So the fact that you are here and participating along with like other people who are also young peace builders on the continent is critical. So again, just recognize that. Those are our two goals. So okay, let's keep it pushing. So qualitative research, very, very simple. What is the one word that's highlighted in this very simple definition? We are focused on individuals. So this is not a spreadsheet. This is not a lot of numbers in lists or graphs. This is individuals' point of view, their experiences, their attitudes, and their beliefs. So I listed a couple ways that qualitative research might differ from quantitative research. Now, either in the chat or if you want to raise your hand and unmute yourself, how is this different from maybe traditional quantitative research methods that we might have encountered in our work or in school? How is qualitative 100% different from quantitative research? Chat or hand up. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Joe Kamshejina from Nigeria as well. For me, the difference between qualitative and quantitative is the quantitative deals mostly with numbers. It doesn't like put those experiences and those views and those quotes and all into perspective. It's just looking at the quantity and not really what are they saying or the reasons behind it. So for me, that's the difference, because for qualitative, it looks at the reasons behind those numbers, but whereas for quantitative, it just gives you numbers. Okay, this is it, this is the percentage, this is the number, this is all this. So for me, that's how I view it. Thank you.
Yeah, really well said. I would say one other thing that I would add is I think a lot of the time with data, your goal, and you guys had mentioned this earlier in the presentation, a lot of the time the goal is to get like unbiased or objective data, okay? And I think the biggest difference for me between qualitative and quantitative data is qualitative data, you are actively seeking out subjective, again, experience, attitudes, and beliefs. Qualitative data is basically about how people feel about things that are happening to them. It's inherently subjective. So I would not be afraid of that. With qualitative research, you want to that is the gold mine, the rock, that is what you want, is someone's subjective understanding of their reality. So don't be afraid of it being, not objective or unbiased. That's the point. Okay. Okay, here is a fun little exercise you're going to do by yourself. Can everyone see this wheel? with the 6 bubbles on the, or 7 bubbles on the outside. Now, on your piece of paper, what you're gonna do is this. You see that each bubble has a number. So for example, topics, rationales labeled number 4, research questions are number 7, theoretical framework is, oops, excuse me. Sorry about that. And then on and on and on. Now, I'm going to give you, let's say, how about 3 minutes? You're going to do this individually, read each of these bubbles. And if you are going to design a qualitative research experiment, which of these bubbles or actions comes first, which comes last? So you are going to rank them by their number in the order that you think that they happen in the best qualitative research experiment you can think of. And you have 3 minutes to do that by yourself. Any questions? Okay, good luck. 3 minutes starts now. Good luck. Hey, just to clarify, make sure that you are putting every single bubble, you're ranking every single bubble in one set. So make sure that every single step is, you're accounting for it as you are ranking them.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Who is here?
Yes, sir. Have about 10 seconds left. Just wrap up those rankings for me. I see you got a couple in the chat. People might have had, yep, amazing. Okay, so I would love, hand raised, someone tell me, explain your ranking. I see a lot of people are starting with 4. So it looks like topic, goals, and rationale seems to be the number 1. And then it gets a little bit different. I'm seeing step 2 next. I'm seeing step 7 next. I'm seeing step 1 next. Someone step up and tell me why. How about let's focus on the second step, defend your answer. So a lot of people started with 4. Someone tell me why, for example, 2 or 7 is the next best step. Okay, still getting some answers in, for sure. So the way that this goes, and some of you seem to have guessed it, is it goes from this top all the way around like a clock, clockwise. So we start with 4, 7, 2, 1, 6, 5, and 3. Now, why would you pick, for example, why would you pick a research question before you pick your theoretical framework? Why would you choose the question before you go on to the method that you're going to try to answer it with? And again, this can be a hand raise or you can drop it in the chat.
Well, my name is Muse Ajimobi Basira from Nigeria. I believe I'm picking number 7 first, because without the research, with the research questions, there must be a theory that goes along with my objective. And based on my goal, it gives me the room for the questions to be asked. And then the research framework, theoretical framework, will now come in as a theory supporting what my goal or my objective is all about. That's my view.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, the simple answer is you can't find answers to questions that you haven't asked yet. So as soon as you figure out, number one, the topic, broadly, is it reproductive health? Is it conflict resolution? What have you? The next thing that you have to identify is the question that you're going to answer. This research question bit, I just finished graduate school and I took an entire class about writing good research questions. So this is not something, if it is a little bit unclear to you about, how might this work or look in my own work, it is okay. It is a difficult concept to learn, but the really important, I think, takeaway is qualitative research is heavily dependent on asking the right questions. So if you're going to spend time in your research, this step right here, step number 2, is where you want to spend time. If you're asking the wrong questions, it's just not effective. It's a waste of both you and your participants' time. Okay, thank you for your engagement. I still see some chats coming in, really great stuff. Okay, so let's do a quick exercise. Who can read, there's a big paragraph here. Who can read this paragraph and in the chat, summarize it in 1 sentence or less? And you get bonus points for using as few words as possible. So your goal right now is to read our paragraph, this big, long paragraph about what qualitative research is, and synthesize it and cut it down into 1 sentence. What is qualitative research? And drop that in the chat when you have a chance. Thank you. We have a hand raised. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I'm Kawide from Zambia. I just want, the slide is a bit one side. I can't see some of the words. I don't know if it's just from my end. Like there are some words that are cut, that is to the left of the screen. So I can say, is it? I don't know if there's a word before is it, and the other words I can see them. So if the slide can be moved slightly and it's centralized, I really appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Let me work on that right now. Thanks. Okay, it looks like people are able to
Thank
see
you.
this.
I can see everything
Okay.
now.
Great, great, great. Thank you. Sorry, appreciate your patience. Okay, great. How about maybe 20 more seconds to wrap up your answers for qualitative research, and then let's get either some answers in the chat or just verbally with the hand raise, please. Okay. Let's wrap those up. Let's take a quick. Would love to hear one sentence paraphrases for this big academic sounding paragraph. Qualitative research is what? We've identified the fact, I think we've talked about it before, that has nothing to do with numbers. So what kind of data are you expecting to get in any sort of qualitative research project? If it's not numbers, how do you learn anything? Okay, I see asking open-ended questions, asking opinions, finding the reasons behind the numbers. Okay, great. These are all really good, really good pieces. And again, Abuka, I just wanted to highlight, okay, thank you, some more responses. Again, the qualitative research is subjective, it is person dependent, and you should not be afraid of that. So most of the data that you're gonna get from qualitative research, rather than numbers, is just gonna be words. It's people talking, or your own observations about a situation that you're in. So one easy way to differentiate qualitative versus quantitative. Qualitative has to do with words. Quantitative has to do with numbers. Good. Thank you for your participation. Lots of really good stuff. Pay attention to gestures, emotions. Yes, all of this is very important. Mannerisms, body language. All of this is, under the umbrella of qualitative research. Okay. Here are some more differences. I'm not going to spend time getting into all of them because we're going to be sharing the PowerPoint later. I did want to highlight, yes, I think this first sentence here, the difference between quantitative and qualitative, where quantitative seeks to confirm a hypothesis, which is basically an idea about why something is happening, using numbers. They have an idea, they prove it with numbers. Qualitative research is a little more open-ended. We might not even come in with a real hypothesis. We just have research questions, and our goal is not to prove, our goal is to explore. Proving is for numbers. Qualitative, we're just only looking to learn and to explore. Okay. Please take a look at this or take a picture of it with your phone if you'd like to explore a little bit longer. Again, it will be shared after the presentation. Okay. Why is this important to you? The training, once again, one of our stated goals was making sure that people were networking with like-minded young professionals across the continent. This is one way that we hope to be facilitating that. And just to reiterate, every single person in this training has unique experiences and perspectives that are valuable to the group. So again, we appreciate your just being here and your participation. So this is as much about learning content as it is about networking with people that you might work with in the future. Okay. So most common uses for qualitative research. Now, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullet points, especially the and more. Short answer, qualitative research is always effective. If there are people involved, you can get qualitative data. So here's our general process. It is 4 steps. Read this to yourself. And my question for you is this. Why is step number 3, reducing the data into themes? Why is this part of our general qualitative process? Why would this step be important? Themes. And that can either be a hand raise or in the chat.
I believe, hello, I'm Tiffany from France. I believe that reducing the data into teams is after preparing the data, organizing data, because it was going to help the researcher to ask the right questions. Probably if the research design concern, we use probably a questionnaire or panel interviews. That's the reason why it's good to reduce the data into teams to be able to ask the right questions.
To ask the right questions. That's a great point. Edgar, how about, I saw you had your hand raised. Would you unmute yourself?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tim. Hi, everyone. I'm Edgar from Kenya. I think the step number 3 in data processing is very important. When you reduce it into the themes, it will help to condense the information that you have so that it can be consumed by even those who don't understand issues to do with the data analysis, the general public at large. Yes, thank you.
That's a great point. So you're saying that if you are able to generate themes for your research, maybe like the general public is more likely to maybe understand what you're talking about.
Yes.
That's a great point. Kamshiwe, please go ahead.
Yeah, for me, that's the step number 3 is very important, because, you know, talking, when people are talking and maybe answering your question, your research question, they will be saying a lot of things that you will need to now streamline it to those particular, whatever, like it's dominant in all the different sayings, whatever is dominant in them. Okay, they will be saying a lot of things, but then you try to now get that thing that it's that dominant, and then that becomes the theme. And I think it's very important because it now reduces all the unwanted words or other things, and then you focus on the exact that thing that occurs, that keep occurring in almost all. Thank you.
That's a really good point. Yeah, again, focus on like root causes. Obumneke, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob from Nigeria. I think in the past, reducing your data into teams helps bring out emerging insights that were not conceived prior to designing the research questions. So most times, researchers get new ideas or insights from data collected via interviews or focus groups discussions to kind of tweak the research questions and maybe further position the study the right way or in the right manner. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That's great. I also just wanted to the chat, Duso, would you mind unmuting yourself? I thought you had a really good answer. Could you explain just a little bit what you meant? They dropped it in the chat box, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, it's Tuso from Botswana.
Hi, Tuso.
With qualitative, hello. With qualitative data, because the kind of questions you are asking are now open-ended, and basically the answers given were participants their lived experiences. You are dealing with a very, very large amount of data, which is in text form. And ideally, you will have a set of research questions which are supposed to satisfy your research aims. And now data reduction is important because we are now trying to identify a set of identical patterns from the data, which then become your themes that help answer the set research questions from that very, very large blocks of data you are dealing with.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm sorry, it was a little bit difficult to hear you. I would suggest you go into the chat and read what Tuso wrote. It was, I thought it was strong. Okay, great. Thank you again for your participation. And again, the focus on themes is really a differentiator between qualitative and quantitative research. Qualitative research helps you identify themes. Okay. So research questions, these are, again, one of the trickiest parts of any sort of qualitative research. We have four, I guess, dimensions that we want to be thinking about. Of course, we want our writing to be clear. Complexity refers to you want to ask a question that can either be yes or no. So maybe a qualitative research question would be, a bad one would be like, is the sky blue tomorrow, for example? Chances are it's probably going to be blue or something along those lines. So you want to pick a question that, you know, could go either way, where the answer is unknown. You want it to be relevant, meaning it has to potentially help someone in some way, and then applicable in whatever context you are working in. So, oops, excuse me. So we're not going to go over them. Here are a list of, these are more sales, sort of business oriented research questions. But the takeaway that I think is important is they often start with the word what or how, and they are each only focused on one particular dimension of a customer's, it looks like, experience. So one question about the way to access the site, one question about what do you think about our competitors, one question about what do customers think of customer support, what do you think about the app. So one question, one idea, I think would be the takeaway here. Okay, cool. Don't want to spend too much time on this. Literature review is, well, to define it. Literature review is basically all of the research about that's like surrounds your question, and you're basically trying to put yourself in the middle of the research, answering a question that hasn't been asked yet. So the literature review kind of like puts you in a spot, situates you in, they call it in the literature. And your goal as a researcher is to, within the research that people have already done, ask a question or explore a phenomenon from a perspective that hasn't been done before. This might be based on maybe socioeconomic status. This could be geographical. This could be some other identity marker, maybe from like a woman lens, for example. Situate yourself in what research people have done in the past, and then seek to sort of in a small way add to that body of literature with your own research questions in your qualitative research. Okay, so theory. Oops, excuse me. I'm going to go to this page right here. So I want to, we are at about 10:46, or excuse me, 46. I'm going to, let's take a 5-minute break, and we will come back at 50 or 10 till. And I need you to answer this question. I'll drop it in the chat. What is research theory? So take 5 minutes. I will see you back in 5. Do what you need to do, and all I need you to do is have an answer for this question when you come back. So I'll see you in about 5 minutes. Okay, thank you for your engagement. Mhm.
Oh! Guys, can you not touch the left? Okay, hello everyone. We're back. Thank you, Chiso, for the first. Oh, looks like we got a couple other ones. Great. When you get a chance, please drop your definition of research theory in the chat box, and then we can get started. If you don't have a idea of what theory is, I just dropped one idea in the chat, and if you want to take a comment on that, please feel free. Thank you, Kushua. Amazing. Commonly held knowledge about an occurrence factor incident. Great. Okay, so let's take a look. Now, this is again a dictionary definition of theory. I'll read it really quickly. So, according to the dictionary, theory is an interrelated set of constructs, variables, hypotheses, or propositions that offer an explanation for the problem identified in the problem statement. It allows a systematic view and lens of viewing a problem or phenomenon. It must be falsifiable, and it drives the observation. Now, what do we think we mean by what does falsifiable mean? Why would that be important? Or first off, what is that? What does that even mean? You can drop it in the chat or raise your hand. So remember when we were talking about earlier about a research question that needed to be complex? And I gave that example of what color is the sky going to be tomorrow? Not super, this might not, that is common knowledge. It's probably going to happen. That would mean that it's not falsifiable. Here might be an, what is seems to be false. Okay. Yes, okay, let's go with Kuwait's answer right here. This is great. Kuwaiti says falsifiable can be proved correct or wrong. That's a perfect definition. So when you're thinking about generating research questions, make sure that, and this is again a good thing, make sure that your question or even your hypothesis can be wrong. Leave space for that. Okay, don't be afraid of that. Thank you for the engagement once again. Okay, let's take a quick look at variables. Now, a lot of the time, variables, when I think about variables, a lot of the time I'm thinking numbers. When it comes to qualitative data, let's take a look down here at the subjective these subjective variables. So again, remember, when we think qualitative data, we're thinking beliefs, attitudes, perceptions. So here might be some examples that would be tough to put into numbers, but we can directly examine with qualitative data. So for example, how supported do you feel by your coworkers? Are you happy at your job? How do you like your boss, for example? These are all answers that would be tough to put into numbers, but are easily accessible using different qualitative methods. Because again, qualitative methods are basically just asking people questions, and they will tell you what the problem is more often than not. That's the cool thing. Okay, so we're gonna get into methodologies and methods. Let's do this one in a breakout room. So I'm going to give you, let's see, we have about 60 people. Let's do, okay. All right, so you should have gotten an invite for a breakout room. I'm gonna give you about, where's this going? Excuse me. I'm gonna give you maybe, how about 4 minutes to get to number one, know each other. And then tell me the difference. It's in this red box. What is the difference between methodology and method? Okay, so you have about, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. Introduce yourselves to your group members, join your group, and then answer this question. What's the difference between methodology and method? Okay, and I'll be popping in just to hear about your discussions. Let me know if you have problems with the breakout rooms. All right, 5 minutes starts now.
Hello, team.
Hi, hello.
Hey, sorry. I just want clarity on the question that we're dealing with in the breakout room. Unfortunately, I left the main room earlier than I was supposed to.
Say that once more.
What is the question that we're tackling in the breakout room?
Oh, great question. It is in this red box. It says, what is the difference between methodology and methods?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you for asking. Okay, looks like people are coming back. Appreciate your guys' work. I would love to hear anything. You can either define to me what research methodology is. You can define to me what a research method is. You can tell me the difference. Would just love to hear your thoughts. Go ahead, either in the chat or just raise your hand. So if you're just coming in, we are, after we got done with our breakout rooms, my question for you is you can either define methodology to me, you can define what a research method is, or you can take a stab at what's the difference between the two. If you are having a struggle, no problem. Down here, I might direct your attention down to this difference section. Yes. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Can I attempt?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let me start with the method. The research method will obviously deal with those specific techniques, the procedures, and the tools that you use to collect and analyze the data. But then the methodology will go a step further and now specify your overall research approach or the framework. We are talking about the philosophical underpinnings, your research design, your sampling strategies, the analysis techniques, as well as maybe the ethical considerations that were taken into consideration while doing the research. And then for the method number 2, now you want to look into the critical steps taken to say these are the methods that are used, the procedures or the instruments, and then the methodology will now seek to explain the reason behind choosing the method, as in the justifications, and as well as go a step further in demonstrating the validity as well as the reliability of the data. That's my understanding.
I couldn't have said it better. So what I'm hearing you say is for methodology is the what are we studying and why is it important? And the method is the what, the how do we get the information? So this is more theoretical, the methodology, and the methods are the actual actions that you're taking to prove the question that you have developed in your methodology. That was just amazing. Anyone else want to chime in? I see someone in the chat. Thank you, Ivan. Methods are applied during the later stage of research, while methodology is applied during the initial stage of the process. Yeah, absolutely. Because the method, again, like is your theoretical framework,
That's where you're generating your questions. And then later on, you sort of execute with the methods. That's a great addition. Thank you. Godfrey says methods are just behavior or tools used to select a research technique, while methodology is analysis of all the methods. Yeah, I like your focus on methods as sort of tools. That's great. All of these are getting at basically the same idea. Okay, difficult distinction. You guys really nailed it. Good job. Okay, so in this, just because we want time for a little bit of networking at the end and some questions and answers. You guys see this little camera icon on the right-hand side? So what I would do, we obviously do not have time to go in depth into all of these methodologies and methods. So this is what I would suggest. If you wanted to take a photo of this slide, and then if you are interested, you can Google these terms and learn a little bit more. Or you can wait for us to send it out at the end of the video. But these just are some, you might have heard of them, you might have not. Again, methodology is this is the way that we are conducting research. And these methods are like the things that we are explicitly doing on the ground to support our theory over here. And it sounds like you guys really got that differentiation, which is great. Okay. Again, would love to hear the question for, so this is a general, this could be for any sort of research question. Tell me, y'all see this red box? Tell me why this group concepts into categories, we kind of touched on it earlier. Why is this an essential part of your research strategy? Categorizing concepts. Why do you think that would be important? So think about it like this. We don't, qualitative research. Oh, yes, please. Oh my gosh, you're completely on today. Go ahead.
Okay, so group concepts into categories is important, especially in qualitative research, because you are trying, at the end of the day, you're trying to find the insights and what you're going to write in your report, or what the research was all about and what people had said. So because you have a bulk of data in qualitative research, because most of it is words and it's open-ended, people can say as much as they want. You have to group them into groups so that you inform your insights and you're able to know what interventions you have to take thereafter.
Absolutely. Yes, no, that's fantastic. So imagine if you're interviewing 50 people and 50 people had 50 different things to say about, I don't know, what was going on in their city or their town. But one thing that came up often was potentially the like water quality issues. So if for example, you have a bunch of qualitative data and you see a recurring pattern or something that people end up mentioning often, even if it's unprompted, water quality, distance from water, it's a hassle. It's something that I think about every single day. That is important data because they are telling you that it is an issue in your life. This might even be a category or maybe a variable that you then can create that will help measure qualitatively how people are feeling about their access to, clean, safe water that's conveniently located. Might be something, and you might not set out with that in mind as something that you wanted to measure, but if people are saying this, you have to take it into account. And so that's why the categories is important, because it helps you sort of react to the data that you are receiving without any preconceived notions about what things should be saying. You are only listening and responding to what people are telling you, which I think is a critical part of qualitative research in general. Really well said. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Ethnography. Can you just you don't have to say anything. Could you just raise your hands if you have heard of this word before. Okay, a couple, yep, 3 people. Okay. 4, great. So we have some kind of definition. Can someone who has raised their hand, would anybody be willing to unmute and share what if you were doing an ethnography, what does that look like? What might your method be? If this is your methodology, what would your method be? What actions are you taking in when conducting an ethnography? Please feel free to unmute yourself.
Direct observation.
Yes, beautiful. Is it a one-off time, or are you staying in a community for a longer period?
You're staying in the community.
Yes, you are staying in the community. It is not a visit. You are staying there. Good. That is an essential component. Thank you, Irene. Really appreciate that. Anyone else care to add on?
Yeah, the other one is role play.
Say more.
The other methodology is role play.
Could you explain that concept to us for people who aren't familiar?
That is where, as a researcher, you mimic the behavior and the routines of your subjects with the view of trying to understand or explain why they do what they do.
Amazing. And again, that's why do they do what they do? That's the goal of qualitative research. Couldn't have said it better myself. I really like your emphasis on, and it shows up, this word. I think Irene and Dennis were both getting at it, where you are embedded as much as possible in a culture, in a community, what have you, where you are experiencing the same customs, you are adopting the same mannerisms, you are living day-to-day life as close as possible to an authentic member of that community, all the while taking notes, interviews, and learning about, again, why are people doing what they're doing. Great stuff. Really good stuff. Anything else before we move on?
Yeah, just to add to that, it can also be part when you're conducting a research involving an organization for you to understand their behaviors and interactions so that you get to know them better. And that closeness gives you that opportunity to understand what you really want to get from them.
Absolutely. Hey, and here's a question. So let's say that you go and you live in a small town and you adopt their mannerisms and you live life the same way that they might be living life. Are you, as a qualitative researcher, are you trying to take those insights from this one community and make it like generalizable and make big statements about all communities or all small towns? Is that your goal with qualitative research? Yes or no? What do we think?
I don't think so. However, I think that most researchers try after they get this information or this data, they tend to generalize it. But I think it's also very important for us to keep it within that particular space where we conducted that research, because there are other things from other areas that, when generalized, can be misconstrued as part of what happens in those spaces as well.
Yes, exactly. And Jan also wrote in the chat, they said, no, just the community understudy. So this is a big difference between, again, qualitative and quantitative, is you are learning about what is going on in one town, one community, among one group of people. And just that is your goal, is to understand why people are doing the things that they do in this one area. And you are not trying to generalize to a greater population. Is a big difference between qualitative and quantitative. Thank you for bringing that up. That's really important. Okay. Phenomenology. The thing that I would highlight about this word, and I believe it is in bold, same activity. So imagine some event, maybe a a new school is constructed in a place. That is the event. One thing happens. Now, how many different perspectives from the community can I get about what this school means to them? So one event, multiple perspectives. That is a phenomenological methodology. One event, multiple perspectives. Okay. Next one would be narrative. This is pretty easy. This is you're focused on one, maybe two people. So rather than focus on an entire group, one or two people, this is heavily interview process. And then I would also highlight this fact over a period of time. So let's say that you had a group of individuals that you wanted to study or learn about. You would pick one or two people and you would spend a year, 2, 5 years interviewing just these people. And I think a big part with narrative to remember is narrative happens over a period of time versus maybe
I didn't know. I can't remember how the analysis was done, but I know I did. And I impact of.
Did someone have a question?
Well, I did. I don't see the analysis. That's why I say I can't remember. But I know I was questioning.
What is the name of your method? Okay. So we're gonna keep. I'm sorry if you have your camera or if you have your microphone on. Please accidentally, please mute it. Would really appreciate that. Sorry to ask. Okay, cool. So yes, we have 2 hands raised. Rukaya, go ahead.
Okay. So I asked a quick question earlier, but got zapped out of the room. I don't know if you've answered it. On the ethnography, do I need to inform, for example, the community researching on about what I'm doing, or I just fit in on the cover and take my research?
That is a great question. I would love to open that up to the room. Does anyone if you were performing an ethnography, do you have to inform the people who you are studying that you are there to study them? What do we think?
I think with participant observation, you don't have to inform the participants what you are particularly doing, because they might act different, which might not necessarily serve your research aims right.
Oh, so you're saying that if you told them that you were, hey, I'm a researcher and I'm going to be studying X, Y, and Z here for 6 months, you think that that would change people's behavior? So it might not be sort of authentic as much?
That is my point of view. I think so. They might act different and it might not necessarily align with my research aims. But if I were to just keep it undercover, they will just act normal and I'll get as much rich data as I can from their actions in relation to what I'm investigating.
Really, yeah, really, that's important to note. How about Abuka? How about I unmuted you? Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that it's very important to inform them because it's ethical. So I don't see why they should not be informed. In most cases, they are more excited to show you about or to show you more about them when they understand why you are there. So it could also be disastrous, or you might not get all the information when you don't tell them you are undercover, but they've not seen you before. So they also might tend to go into their shell because they don't know you and they don't know why you are there with them. So I think it's very ethical to inform them about it. So from my own reason, I would come from the ethical point of view. Thank you.
Really good. Yeah, really good point. How about Godfrey? I haven't heard from you in the chat. Please go ahead.
Okay, for my side, I think what you have to do is to inform the head of the society. Maybe you are going to a particular village, you have to inform the leaders of the village to know that you're going to conduct a study on that area, but you're not going to inform the participant on what you are going to do with them. They just have to see you around the village, but you don't inform what you are doing, because if you're informing them, it may affect your study. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's the issue is if you tell them, then they might act different, and then your data might be, might be wrong or misleading. Tuso, go ahead.
So I think the last participant obviously wrapped up what I was saying first, that you inform the participants, they act different now, and it will distort your data.
Yes, that's the number one question. Samson, did you have something similar to say?
Okay, for me, times it depends on the context where you're coming to what you conduct. For some communities, they will always want to know the main and at times they will ask you to send a letter, even though you conduct questions might not be. The letter will just summarize everything, but they don't even know what question you are supposed to ask. So at times it depends on the context of the community you are engaged in. They might ask to know, okay, what are you coming to do? In the spirit of do no harm, you have to share that. So, but that depends on the context. Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Okay, we have two more. Let's go Edgar and then Kunshua. Go ahead, Edgar.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sim. Okay, for me, I think it is important for us to talk to the authority, because the authority will always give you that permission. They will have the information on whatever you want to do, because certain things, certain research might be acting as an intelligence collection, so it will cause more problem between the researcher and the authority. Then on the line of the community generally that you are going to research on, but it is important for you to avoid the community by communicating on whatever you want to do with them, because these will just dilute the work that you'll be about to do. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, cool. We'll go one more. Kunshua, go ahead.
All right, for me, I think it depends on the topic, whatever the research topic is as well. If it's a sensitive one, I think you'll be very careful the way you handle it. And then just like I think the other guy said about the ethics, we should inform the community stakeholders and then just go ahead and do the research. But when you don't inform the community stakeholders, you will find it very difficult. And when you inform the general community now, they could, like others have said, like it will alter your data. They may not give you what you want. But like I said, it depends on the sensitivity. There are things that are just common that anybody could feel free to talk about. And that wouldn't be an issue if you tell those people you're researching on. But if it's going to be sensitive that you think they may want to hide something, I think you should just talk to stakeholders and you don't need to talk to them as such. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And then just to wrap that up, Milan in the chat said it depends on the duration of the study. People can't pretend for long. I thought that was really interesting. Correct. Okay, really good discussion. Appreciate that. Definitely some ethical issues when it comes to qualitative research, for sure. Okay, this is a huge block of text. Historical data is basically looking at research that's done before and then attempting to illuminate it in a new light. So using previous studies, methodologies, and methods, and attempting to do some sort of analysis on it in a new, refreshing way. Please look it up if you want to learn a little bit more. So we're here on observation. Observation is basically where you sit and you just observe how people are interacting on a day-to-day basis. Now,
I have a question for you. You have 4 roles. What is the difference between role 1, or excuse me, role 2, participant as observer, and role 3, observer as participant? Think to yourself and then either raise your hand or drop in the chat. Yes, ma'am,
I
please
think
go ahead.
participant as observer, that's where, sorry, let me start with 3. Observer as participant, I think that's a method that we're just from talking about. That's where the observer is among the participants. He pretends he's among the participants. But participants as observer, the observer won't be among the participants. They'll just be watching the participants, kind of, how can I say, for example, in a focus group discussion, if we're going to say observer as participant, the observer is going to be part of the focus group discussion. But if the participant as observer, the observer is going to be maybe the timekeeper outside the focus group discussion. That's how I understand it. Thanks.
That is what an absolutely fantastic example. Thank you so much. Rukaya, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, I understand number 2 in a situation where you're simulating, where an observer is required. You are part of the participants, but you serve as an observer within whatever is taking place. That, for example, a structured environment, since it's a simulation. That's my understanding of 2 participants as observer. Well, now you're an observer as participant. Sorry, I'm not really clear about that.
Oh, I think you cut out. Thank you for sharing though. And yes, definitely.
Number 2 as that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rukaya, I'm so sorry. I think I cut you off on accident. I apologize. Okay, so I think 2 and 3 really come down to, so if we're sitting in an ethnography methodology, we're probably sitting at stage number 4, where we are directly we are all observing, but we are also participating in a group sort of customs. And then again, like Queenie said, participant as observer might be more of a focus group type situation, where it's everyone knows that you are there to take notes, and they are the people being observed. So this one, number 3, might be how you might want to call it, more immersive, potentially, than number 2 would be the difference. Really good job, you two. Okay. Don't have a whole lot to say about this. Where can you get data? You can get data from written documents. This is outside of most of qualitative data is verbal data. Verbal can also be written. So when you're thinking about potential places for getting qualitative data, maybe diaries or any sort of first person document that is written sort of verbatim from what people said historically, can also be considered qualitative as well. You do not need to be directly interviewing them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. I want to leave some time for some questions at the end, but I'm going to drop, excuse me, I dropped a link to the presentation in the chat box.
with some direction. So what we're gonna briefly go through slides 30 to 35. Okay, these are different sampling methods. Now, I'm going to put you into breakout rooms, and all you need to do is define each. I think there are 4 methods that we list. You can use your phone, you can use the internet. All I need you to do is for slides 30 to 35, all you need to do is just define the 4 sampling methods in your breakout rooms. And I will give you about 5 minutes to get that done. Okay, you should have gotten your invitation. All you need to do is get definitions for the 4 different types of sampling methods listed on the PowerPoint. And please, if you cannot access the PowerPoint, drop it in the chat and I will help you fix the issue. I'll see you back here in about 5 minutes.
Method that we see it is in the presentation. I've seen where there's one that is talking about clusters.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's great. Okay, so I asked you to, and this was difficult without providing you a lot of background, but different sampling methods. This is ways that you pick people to interview. And you might pick people based on all sorts of different characteristics that they might have, but there are methodologies in terms of making sure that there is no bias in the way that you are choosing people to investigate or to study. So I see 4 pretty common samples here. I would love for someone to pick one and then explain to us what is going on. What is the methodology behind one of these sample how would you say methods? Thank you. Please go ahead, Rakaya.
Okay, so I'll go with the first one, the simple random sample. This is where if the researcher can just randomly select participants from a large population. For example, you are researching in a school, and all the pupils are lined up on assembly. You just randomly, okay, you come. You just turn around. You come without specifying whether, for example, gender or race or looks or anything. You just randomly select without any form of maybe if I may say order, when you just select at random. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's exactly perfect. Randomly pick someone, like in a lottery. Afiz in the chat, if you don't mind, he had examples for everyone. Could you explain, pick either systematic, stratified, or cluster and explain one of them for us? I really liked your explanation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Can I be heard, please?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, so let me take a cluster sample. In cluster sample, the group we are looking at, the total population we are looking at are divided into equal cohort, equal numbers, and then each of them, not all of them, will contribute to the total sample that we are looking at. They have equal numbers from the different populations, but we have participants selected, not from all the clusters that we have for total samples.
Not for, so you group participants into clusters and then randomly select those clusters. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Amazing explanation. That's great. Someone tell me what's the difference? How about a stratified sample? Let's just like look at this picture. What does a stratified sample mean?
I think in
please go ahead. No, please.
That's stratified sample. You divide the population into groups based on a common theme, like maybe male or female, or into strata. Then from each grouping, now you pick the sample from each grouping.
Great. So an easy would be that, let's say that the divide is gender. So we have 2 groups. We might have male, we might have female, and then we randomly select one from here, 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 based on this divide that you think is important. If you think that gender is going to affect people's outcomes, for example, education, that might be an effective variable or
what was the word before? Category to divide your population by. If you think gender is going to affect the way that people's lived experience works. Okay, really good job. Thank you for everyone who shared. And then again, lots of great stuff in the chat as well. This one was a little bit interesting. Snowball sampling. Oops, my bad. Snowball sampling. Raise your hand briefly. What does this look like? Would you think? Yes, Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Here, first of all, you're able to, once you've identified one participant who meets the inclusion criteria, and basically it's used in, for example, studies that, so to speak, where certain characteristics are needed that, especially when looking at sexuality issues. I'm using that as an example.
Sure.
So you don't want, the participants are not known, so you use the first participant. Once you've identified the first participant, that participant will lead you to the next participant. So you snowball from one participant to the other. They're able to get, they help you get the next participant. For example, when we're looking at issues to do with the LGBTQ, so this person will lead you to the next participant like that.
Great. Couldn't have come to a better, couldn't have explained it better myself. Once you find one participant, the people that they know then become next potential participants. Great. Thank you for sharing, Elizabeth. That was great. Okay. Here's one, convenience sampling. Someone explain to me what this is, and then I also want to hear why this might not be the best way of sampling for qualitative research. Yes, Milan, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so convenience sampling is where you picking your participant based on either their availability or your resources. So it is more of the people that you really want to interview, and you don't look into the dynamics of each participant. So as you've said, it is not the best sampling technique because it is not something that you can generalize, because we'll end up having a sample of people with similar characteristics.
Sure. This would be like standing outside of like a supermarket somewhere and just interviewing everyone that walks past you. You can expect that those people are going to be kind of the same for maybe a certain set of reasons, and it's not going to be random. A fantastic example. Thank you for chiming in. So we want, even though convenience sampling, like its name suggests, might be easy, this is one that you would want to, especially if you were doing any sort of professional research, is something you would want to avoid. Absolutely want to avoid. Okay. Did anyone get an answer for quota sampling? This one is a little bit less common. Would love to hear what you guys have to say about it, either in the chat or just with a hand. Okay. Yes, please, Irene. Thank you.
Yes, so I would explain it as selecting a proportion of a whole unit. Like you predetermine the proportion you would like to use during your study as part of a whole population. Say from a country, you say from only this one district is where I'll get my population to sample. I think that's how I'd explain it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yep, amazing. Okay, this is again another one. So there is a whole subset of research about other sampling techniques. Again, once you see the camera, feel free to take a picture or just come back to it on the slides. These are other terms that you can Google. We don't have time to get into them today. We just covered the most common ones. Okay, before we finish, we're gonna do 4 main types of qualitative data. So qualitative data is not numbers, it's usually words. So there's 4 different ways or methods that you normally use to elicit or gain insight into people's lived experience by their words, by tracking their words. So the first one that we are all pretty familiar with, it's called an interview. Okay, an interview can be formal or it can be informal. It can be in a group, but it basically represents you have one researcher and a set of individuals that they are studying, the target population, and the interviewer has questions that they come in and ask of the target population, and they write down the target population's answers verbatim, meaning all of the ums, the pauses, the colloquial language, whatever it is. The important thing about the interview is when you are transcribing it, when you are actually writing down the answers, you do not miss or glaze over. You write down exactly what comes out of people's mouths is the one thing that I would say about this. And then afterwards, you might go and clean your interview data a little bit. So you can, for example, I don't know, do a word cloud of similar words. When you are transcribing, you want every single mistake, pause, piece of body language, all of that, exactly as it happened. So that would be the first, usually the most common one. Second, and I think multiple people, oh my goodness, multiple folks have noted this before, is a focus group. Can someone briefly with a hand explain to us what a focus group is and why it would be effective in getting qualitative data? I would be thinking in my head right now, like, oh, please, yes, please go ahead.
Oh, let me make a trial.
Go ahead, Edgar.
Okay, thank you. Oh, for the focus group, when you are carrying out your data, you need to have a specific kind of a subject that you'll be working on. You can't just come out and carry out a research on any subject that you have come across. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Milan, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, so the second question that you asked, why it is not a very good method to use. One is because of the group dynamics. We have those that are quiet, we have those that are very talkative. And then it can also be influenced by different people. So in this case, an example, you want to talk to pregnant mothers, but in the Middle East, you have a CHV, community health volunteer in it. So it will influence how the mothers will be communicating. And then it is also based on the moderator. If the moderator is not able to bring out the thoughts of people, even those that are very quiet, then you will not have any rich data.
That's an absolutely fascinating and really important to call out the role of the moderator, i.e. the researcher, like your own role in getting good data. If you aren't able to make people feel comfortable, being authentic, then again, your data is not going to be rich. Let's go with talent. And then go ahead, talent.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope I am sound loud and clear.
You're good.
Basically, I would like just to add one word Yeah, which is that basically when you are using a focus group discussion is when you want to test and also verify the primary data that you would have gathered, from interviews and so forth. So you basically use a group of people who have dissimilar characteristics and try to test the data that you have obtained through the interviews. Thank you very much.
Interesting. Yes. So there's a difference between interviews and maybe a more formal focus group. Okay, that's great. Chibukem, go ahead and then we'll keep it pushing. Go ahead and unmute yourself, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Under focus group discussions, it may not be really, it may not work for all kinds of qualitative research, because under focus group discussions, all the whole questions, like you can go in depth and ask some questions because of there are some sensitive informations that are meant to be asked during in-depth interviews. So you can get so you can get more information. So what I'm trying to say here is that under focus group discussions, you don't get all that information you need. That's what I have to say.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely agreed. I think echoed by other participants. Samson, go ahead quickly, and then we'll move on. Thank you.
Yeah, I have seen this practically, where you engage in focus group discussion. Because most of programs you bring stakeholders from substantial organizations. They've been engaging themselves for quite a long time. Once you ask a specific question, one will say, okay, this is the response we have. In the previous, whatever question you bring, they will always refer you to say, okay, this is our position. Just like some of the participants have clearly stated, that at times in focus group discussion, some decision taken can be taken by one person and everybody will say, yeah, this is our position, this is what we feel is. So that is just a practical experience. Thank you.
That's a really good point. Really good point. Okay, cool. We're gonna keep it moving. I want to be cognizant of your time. So again, take a picture of this or look at it on the slide. The last thing that I want to talk about is, and this will be kind of a fun one, I think. I need you in the chat to write a bad interview question. So interview questions should be open-ended or closed-ended. Open, closed.
Open.
Open-ended. Okay, so if it's an open-ended question, is the response going to be yes or no? Let me rephrase that. Is it if the answer to a question if the answer to a question is yes or no, is it an open-ended question or a closed-ended question?
That's a closed-ended.
Yeah. And we do not want closed-ended questions for interview questions. So as we finish up, I think this is the last thing that I will ask you to do for the training. I need you to, in the next 1 minute, write down a bad interview question, one that you would not ask in a research environment. Think of the worst one you could possibly imagine, drop it in the chat. Or you could say, Kushiwe, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, I just want a clarification on the open and close-ended questions, because sometimes I know I've used, and because of my work, I've used the close-ended questions where you ask yes or no, but in interviews, so to say. But what I do is the reason for the yes or the no, I'll add some sort of a reason why. If, let's say, for instance, you choose a yes, why did you choose that yes? And then I get that explanation that made it not really a close-ended question as well. And as well for no, maybe if you say no, why are you saying no? So sometimes, so I don't know if I'm wrong by doing that. It's just what I wanted asking. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. And I mean, it's important, especially when you do run into a yes or a no type of answer. The move as a researcher is to push a little bit and ask why. So I think that's definitely something really to keep in mind. So I'm looking at some, yeah, these are extremely silly answers. We have some leading responses. We have some ones that are, easily yes or no. We have some ones that are maybe irrelevant. I think so. All of that is to say, ideally, we're looking for people to explain why. So when you're thinking about questions to ask, just like Kumshua was talking about earlier, you want to write a question such that they can answer it or they cannot answer it in a one word, one sentence fashion. And if they do, your move always needs to be, well, why do you think that way? Always, why do you think that way? Because again, that's what we're looking at with qualitative research. Okay, great. Appreciate your time. This is great. So we have done focus groups. We've talked about interview transcripts. I will highlight this just one more time. When you are transcribing an interview, you want everything that the person says or doesn't say. And then you can worry about the transcription later when you clean it up. But when you are writing it down, make sure you get everything that you could possibly, that you can clean. All of that is important information. Okay. Really quick, I want to talk about ethical consent or informed consent. And this is, we had a conversation about it earlier. Can someone who's familiar with this term explain to me or to us why this would be important when you are doing research? This idea of informed consent. Go ahead, Rakaya.
Okay, so first thing we need to know is that informed consent is given only by adults, people above the age of 18. Anyone below the age of 18 can. So for informed consent, if you're going, know why you're doing the research and where know that you're going to be publishing maybe the result of the research, you're in a way protecting yourself as a researcher against any legal litigations or any legal misconduct by informing a research group what you're doing, and they know beforehand before the research takes place. Thank you, and over.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I would just draw your attention to this. Any activities that require more than casual interaction require informed consent, which is basically you're telling people that you are studying or researching, that you are studying and researching them, and you are going to potentially publish your results to the public. So we are at the end of our training, which is fantastic. I have, before you go, I have 2 requests for you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen really quickly. The first one is to fill out a short survey that I will drop in the chat right now. Just give me 1 minute. This is just basically about, did this training meet your needs? Was there anything that was missing? How can we improve it? We feel like convening this kind of expertise is really important to building solidarity and knowledge on the continent. So please, I just put it in the chat and hit it with a little celebration emoji. Please take 5 minutes and fill out this Google Sheet. And then also, before you go, and I will do this as well, if you feel comfortable, put your LinkedIn URL, drop it in the chat. I know that I will just be adding everyone who links to the chat. So I'm going to put mine in there. And if you feel comfortable, I suggest that you do as well, so we can stay in contact with each other. Okay. And with that, once you finish, I'll stick around if you have questions, anything that you want to talk about. Once you finish the survey, I feel free to hop out, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you for being here with us and our great team at PPIA, and thanks for your engagement.